Okay, WandaVision, Episode 9, Season Finale, you already know. Spoiler review, like, share, subscribe. There's no time, you guys.
No time!
We've got to get right into this. So we pick up right where we left off at the end of Episode 8, with Wanda facing off against Agatha, who has the kids trapped with her little magical snares. And we see Agatha's ultimate goal very quickly is revealed to us that she is power-hungry, as well as a little jealous of Wanda's just kind of immense, unearned power. And she wants to suck it up the same way that she sucked up all of the power in her coven from her flashback 2 episodes prior. I will say, I noticed here, as Wanda is trying to find ways to disable Agatha without directly using her powers on her, this scene where she throws the car is where they managed to squeeze one final pop culture reference into the show, because I clearly saw that as one to The Wizard of Oz. Agatha's boots underneath the rubble was clearly a reference to the Wicked Witch of the East's legs underneath Dorsey's house in that movie. Simultaneous to this fight, we're treated to a fantastic Vision versus Vision battle. A couple things right off the bat. First, in order to save myself sanity and to avoid confusion, I'm going to be hereafter referring to White Vision as Classic Vision and Westview Vision as Diet Vision. So that's what I mean as we're moving forward with this review. 2, this was just so immensely satisfying to me. Seeing as how, after the immense display of power we see Vision have in Age of Ultron, lifting Thor's hammer and squaring off against the Ultron bots, all the Russo brothers really had him do was float around, wear sweaters, and get stabbed. So it was thrilling to see the two of them fight with the full scope of their powers and strength, with both of them using their phasing abilities in really creative ways, both offensively and defensively. I loved it. 3, while I wasn't directly right about White Vision being a revived Ultron, I did notice something on multiple rewatches, and that was that until being restored later, Paul Bettany's voice as White Vision was in fact overlaid with James Spader's voice. I took a look in the IMDb cast list, and he is listed, or rather his voice is listed in the cast. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm fairly sure, I'd say 80-90% sure that that's what that more robotic, computerized sound was the two of their voices kind of overlaid with each other. So that was a really nice touch, a cool way to include James Spader / Ultron without getting him too involved. And then lastly, we see that Monica is watching all of this happen from Agatha's attic. She's being held hostage by Pietro, who we learn is just another resident of Westview named Ralph Boner. That's right, Evan Peters was Agatha's husband Ralph that she's been talking about the entire show. Not Quicksilver from a different universe, just a one-off joke. We'll talk more about this later in general, but this was a big disappointment to me. It reminded me of the poorly received fake Mandarin twist from Iron Man 3, and I think going forward it's going to leave a very similarly sour taste in the mouths of many Marvel fans. Back with Wanda, we see that the spooky book in Agatha's basement was an artifact known as the Darkhold. We saw this back in episode 6, if you don't remember. Now this is my bad for not catching this, and other YouTubers greater than I did catch it. And I hear you guys already saying, what the hell is the Darkhold? Well, again, I say to you, that's what you have me for. In the Marvel Comics, also known as the Shiatra Book of the Damned or the Book of Sins, the Darkhold has a very long and complicated comic book origin, and to know more, there's a video that I'm going to put here to my boy Comics Explain, the channel that you guys know that I love, and I always plug for more in-depth Marvel explanations. He has a video on the Darkhold. He goes all into it. It's a fantastic video. Essentially, it's a very bad, very evil book of spells filled with dark magic and demon power, and it's very bad. It's very not good. We see, actually, that the reason why Agatha already knew what the Scarlet Witch was at the end of the last episode is because it's an entity named in the Darkhold as a kind of title or level of power that anyone can achieve. And there's 2 things that she said here that grabbed my attention specifically. One is that the Scarlet Witch needs no incantation, which kind of explains why Wanda can use her magic without needing to recant the spells out loud, the way that we see a lot of the other witches needing to. And 2, that her power rivals that of the Sorcerer Supreme. That idea makes me foam at the mouth, thinking about a potential future conflict with Doctor Strange in Doctor Strange 2: The Multiverse of Madness, even if Cumberbatch didn't have a surprise cameo in this show like a lot of people thought he was going to. Opening the hex to let the terrorized people of Westview leave, we immediately see, as soon as she does this, that Diet Vision and the kids immediately start to disincorporate. In a manner very similar to, I might add, the most famous cover of the House of M, with those kind of Tetris block-like particles separating as they kind of dissolved. I really liked that nod. To avoid this, Wanda reseals the hex, saving them as Agatha tells her and us that Wanda has inadvertently tied their fates with that of the hex itself. The family all together squares off against Agatha, Classic Vision, and Hayward's men in a hero shot that I thought reminded me very much of something out of The Incredibles. I like the superhero family dynamic that they seem to have achieved in this moment. The Vision versus Vision battle continues, and it turns into a sort of mental chess game between two supercomputer-level intellects, with Diet Vision successfully disarming Classic Vision with a logic problem. I really like this. Diet Vision specifically dwells on the Ship of Theseus thought experiment, which, if you don't know or didn't pay attention to the excellent explanation that they gave in the episode, essentially raises the question of whether an object that has all of its components replaced remains fundamentally the same object. I really enjoyed this aspect of the fight, too, because it highlighted the more intellectual, literal nature of both Vision's minds, so I thought that was a good inclusion. The debate ends with Diet Vision stating that as a synthezoid, not just a computer, Classic Vision's memories could not have been so easily wiped from his mind, instead assuming that they were just locked in another part of it. And he reaches forward, kind of the way that we saw him do with Norm and Agnes and the other characters in prior episodes, and bypassing Sword's programming, he restores Classic Vision's memories. His eyes and his voice return to normal, and he looks at Vision and he says, "I am Vision." We get a nice little parallel to his birth in Age of Ultron, where he was looking at his own reflection, and here the two Visions kind of mirror each other's movements, and then he flies through the ceiling, never to be seen again. We're going to talk about it, don't worry. Outside, we get to see both of the twins' powers on full display, which, considering that we don't see them for that much longer, I enjoyed. I really did. We get to see Billy freezing them with his telepathy and Tommy disarming them with his super speed. And then we also get to see Monica's definitely confirmed superhero powers at this point, stopping Hayward's bullets from hitting the kids all Neo in the Matrix style. A couple things. One, I feel kind of confident saying this is a prediction confirmed now that she's being turned into a superhero. You know, she hasn't specifically been named Spectrum or Photon just yet, but it's clear that she has superpowers. I don't think that anybody could deny that that's what's going on with that character. Two, like I said last week, gotta give a shout out to Hayward, lamest perspective the show award for trying to gun down two children. God. Up on top of the roof, we see that Wanda and Agatha are facing off, and Wanda warps Agatha's mind a la Age of Ultron style. It was good to see that because we haven't seen it in a while. And in this memory, which is again the flashback of her being confronted by her coven, we see a couple of things. One, we see that Wanda dons her comic headdress in energy form before later in the episode, in the climax, getting her entire full comic book costume, or at least the MCU version of the comic costume. And I love it. I love it so much. It's so much better than that red leather outfit that she used to wear in previous entries, and I'm happy that, you know, she has the name Scarlet Witch, she has the costume, and she's becoming the character that we, as comic book fans, have always wanted to see her become. On top of this moment was also a very clear link to that previous Mind Stone vision back from the Episode 8 flashback, the one I used in my thumbnail for the previous episode, of her silhouette. If you look back at that now, she's very clearly wearing this costume, and it's just, you know, darkened as a little future Easter egg. And also, more subtly, it was an additional clever detail to have her accent come back in full as she kind of realized and fully accepted who she was and her true identity. It was very good. Agatha tells Wanda in this scene that power isn't your problem, knowledge is, which is, you know, pretty much what I said word for word last episode. But Wanda ultimately proves this wrong. Although her battle with Agatha devolves into the standard Marvel, let's throw a laser, no, I'm going to throw a laser at you kind of final battle that they all have, and that was a little disappointing. She shows some magical development by not only overpowering, but also outsmarting Agatha by casting the very runes on the walls of the Hex that Agatha had chided her for not knowing in the previous episode. With Agatha defeated, the battle concludes with one final unsettling WandaVision moment just to send us off, and that is in the form of Wanda transmuting Agatha against her will back into nosy neighbor Agnes to kind of keep her locked away and out of trouble. Now, personally, I'm happy that she wasn't just a one-and-done villain killed outright at the end of the story. You know, think about any of the Marvel villains. Hela specifically came to my mind thinking about this. Because I feel Marvel's strongest villains have always been the ones who endure past one movie. You know, think about Loki or even the Vulture. They're the ones who get more complex character development. It leaves the possibility open that maybe Agatha is going to be brought back, either as a reoccurring villain or maybe even as an anti-hero slash mentor character to Wanda. And the show kind of hints to us that maybe this is what the plan is, because Wanda not only says, I'll be seeing you, but Agatha says, you have no idea what you've unleashed, you're going to need my help. And that kind of makes me think that there might be something else coming, either in Doctor Strange 2, The Multiverse of Madness, or Spider-Man 3, or something else, which is going to require Wanda unhexing Agatha and, needing her help or guidance with something magical. The gut-wrenching emotional crescendo of the show arrives when Wanda's arc comes full circle. She realizes that she needs to embrace the reality of her grief instead of literally altering reality to avoid dealing with it, as she has been doing. And this results in her releasing the hex and doing the right thing, thereby losing Diet Vision and her kids. What was particularly heartbreaking to me was this shot here after Wanda and Diet Viz kind of tuck Billy and Tommy in for the final time before we know that they're about to disappear. And you can see in their eyes that they know too. Even if Tommy and Billy don't know, you can tell that the two of them were looking at them knowing that their kids were about to not really, maybe not die, but disappear. This whole scene holds a kind of ethereal sadness, kind of like the way maybe that you feel when you wake up from a really good, really vivid dream and you realize slowly that it wasn't real at all. It kind of had that kind of abstract sadness to me. The scene comes to a point when Wanda has to say goodbye to Diet Vision. And she explains to him and us that essentially he has been an emotional manifestation of her memory of him, using the part of the Mind Stone that lives within her as the kind of conduit in order to create his body. Now, don't get me wrong. This scene was really sad, and I have no shame admitting to you guys that I teared up the first time I watched it. I didn't let the tears fall, but they were welling in my eyes. They were there. This was a sad f***ing scene. But I was prevented from being overcome with complete despair. Even though the show clearly wanted us to feel like we were watching Vision die for the third time, I didn't really feel that way because of some nagging questions that I had about classic Vision. To me, it seemed like after Diet Vision kind of unlocked and restored classic Vision's memories, that classic Vision was just back as proper Vision, albeit a little bit paler. His body was rebuilt and his mind and memories seemed to be restored. And he looks at Diet Vision and says, I am Vision. So, because of that lack of clarification, not only did I not feel that sad about this, but I kind of questioned why Wanda's sadness had such a finality to it. I kind of wanted to grab her and be like, girl, your real husband is by all means of what we've been shown alive and well. Why are you crying so much? Maybe go fly after him and see what he's doing. Perhaps we'll learn more about what this all means either from the showrunner Matt Shakman or from Kevin Feige moving forward. But I'm surprised I'm not seeing more people talk about this. This is kind of, confused me a lot. After quickly reconciling with Monica and officially ending the hex, Wanda flies away. Now we're treated to two end credit scenes. Well, a mid-credit scene and an end credit scene. We're going to talk about both of them. In the mid-credit scene, we see that, Jimmy Woo is kind of leading a cleanup effort in the town, and an unnamed random FBI agent says, okay, Monica, I want to talk to you in the theater. And they go into the theater, and we see that this agent is really a Skrull. If you don't remember, Monica's childhood is entwined with Maria and Carol helping these little green aliens in Captain Marvel. Specifically, she's told that someone up there meaning in space, wants to speak with her. I'm assuming it's either Nick Fury or Talos, or maybe both. This could mean a lot of things. My mind immediately went to her showing up in Marvel's Secret Invasion. Now that's going to be, if you didn't know, a future Disney Plus show based on the comic event Secret Invasion, which, again, I'm vastly dumbing this down, but it's the shape-shifting Skrull secretly infiltrate several different aspects of Earth society and Earth heroes, and who's a Skrull? Are you a Skrull? You're not a Skrull? I don't know. It's all based around paranoia and impersonation. It's a very good comic run, and they're going to do that show, and kind of seems to me like, okay, Monica's going to show up in that, maybe. In general, though, I think it's safe to say that the character's going to have a rich future in the MCU, We've seen that Teyonah Parris is confirmed to be in Captain Marvel 2 already, that's official. And on top of that, there's rumors that she's going to show up in two new future Marvel projects. One is going to be the Agents of S.W.O.R.D. show, and the other is going to be the new Miss Marvel show that's coming out in a little bit. Those are just rumors, but I'd say that either one of them has merit to them. We'll probably see her, because she's a popular character. I think that Teyonah Parris did a great job. And I would love to see her in more Marvel projects going forward. Our second end credit scene is Wanda living alone in seclusion. In a kind of mountain-esque area. I see a couple people saying this is an area in Sokovia from the comics. And we see that there's two versions of her, but not really, don't worry. One is her physical body, kind of just doing her own thing, making some tea in the house. And we go into the back room and we see the other one is her astral form, fervently studying the context of the Darkhold in a manner very similar to the way that Doctor Strange's astral form would study books and different things in his own movie. So that's what he was doing. There weren't two Wandas. Stop freaking out about it. The very, very last thing we hear here is the boy's echoey voices calling out to Wanda as she's looking through the Darkhold and her eyes are glowing red. And it was them, if you turn the subtitles on, that says that it's Tommy and Billy. And then it cuts to black. If you're confused, I don't blame you. Essentially, in the comics, when events similar to the show unfolded, Tommy and Billy's souls, while their bodies were not real, their souls were. And they defied dissolution, instead finding new carriers elsewhere in the world in real human babies. And then the two of them and Wanda are reunited later in their lives. That could be what they're doing here. My gut take, however, is that in an effort to reclaim them after she hears their voices, she's going to start causing all kinds of multiverse trouble, ripping havoc into different universes, and that's going to segue us perfectly right into Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange 2. It also does leave the possibility open to Mephisto being a key player in either of those movies or a different project going forward, but at this point I'm kind of happy dropping that theory only to be pleasantly surprised further down the line, rather than staying on this train only to keep being disappointed. Now, this episode was great, in my opinion. Like, that was episode 9. It was a fantastic finale and a wrap-up to the show and the stories being told here. It brought Wanda's arc to a very logical close, in my opinion, leaving the grief-fueled delusion of the start of the show and coming to a calm, sobering state of mourning, relinquishing the illusion of her family in order to do the right thing by the end. But it was also interesting. And what I mean by that is, let's get this out of the way, all right? Specifically the things that I and many others, and I'm sure you guys, were hoping for that we didn't get right. This was a principal consequence of the weekly release schedule. It leaves a lot of time, it leaves a week in between each little episode that we get for us to form theories and build expectations and, build up the hype train. Now, I feel strongly that it's not a director or producer's job to placate an audience. They don't need to write a script exclusively around our theories and what we think should happen next. They always had a story to tell and a narrative planned out, and the toxicity or unhappiness of any given fan base should not alter their course. With that being said, Marvel also definitely trolled us here, okay? All the Mephisto and Hell references. Remember this?
Unleash Hell, Demon Spawn!
Yeah, teasing their own Luke Skywalker cameo in interviews, Paul Bettany trolling us in Esquire interviews, teasing the importance of characters like Dottie or Jimmy's informant, and most egregiously, the miscasting of Evan Peters in a not Quicksilver throwaway role. It's a bit disappointing, and I really see it as the show's only true misstep. Yet, overall, I think the story they told was emotional, powerful, and rich with character development, especially with Wanda. They did her character a great service, and I think it's safe to say that she's probably the most popular female MCU character at the moment. She is mine. Maybe Monica will give her a run for her money going forward, but that's all people can talk about is Wanda, 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 Wanda. Like, have you seen WandaVision? She's a household name right now. It also did a tremendous service to my personal favorite character in the MCU, Vision. I love Paul Bettany. He's a great actor. Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen are both just acting their hearts out this entire show. Like, that, without question. I personally love Paul Bettany a lot. I love the character Vision a lot. And it would always frustrate me to see him sidelined in previous MCU movies, so I think that this show did a tremendous service to him as well. And, on top of all that, I can't wait to see more of Wanda's story continue in Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange 2, and who knows what else going forward. Now, hold your tears, my loyal viewers. I already hear what you're saying, okay? This is not the last you will see of the layman's perspective. Next week, I will be releasing one final, probably Friday or Saturday. I will be releasing one final episode, kind of recapping the events of the entire series, giving my thoughts on the show as a whole, as well as speculating about what the show means for the future of the MCU. So stay tuned, obviously, to catch that. This is not the last video I'm making. It's okay. You're stuck with me for a long time. You think I'm going anywhere? We get a week off, and then we're going right into Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then we'll get another week off. We're going right into Loki. And then What If? And then what I'm saying is there's no better time to be a Marvel fan with all the crap we're getting. And that means that I'm not going anywhere for a long time. Always remember, time is your most valuable resource, and I'm always happy that you chose to spend some of it with me. I'll see you guys next time.